Grog.
Hey everyone, it's the Sideshow Podcast with me, Peter Fickling, and Matthew Weir. Kerry is where, Matthew? I want to say over Dubai or something at the moment.
Well, she's on her way to Dubai. I think she's
Right.
probably over India as we speak, or heading in that direction. Should have flight tracked her, shouldn't I?
But yeah, it's going to be exciting to have her back. I wonder what she will have made of this week. It's a bit of an odd one. I know that you are exhausted, so I think the expectation is for me to carry this pod, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. I've been decorating the new apartment on my own this week, and I think I've been inhaling a lot of fumes and getting a lot of dust blowing around my system, so I'm a little bit otherworldly.
I mean, I decorated my old house, and I remember afterwards I was like, "Oh God, it really is hard work, isn't it, being a decorator?" So yeah, more power to them. Let's have an ad, and then we can get stuck into all of the nonsense. Let's just get the Jenny stuff out of the way, because I cannot imagine there's anyone who really wants to dwell on it too much. So apparently Jenny's will is controversial, blah, blah, blah. Alice, blah, blah, blah. Everyone's concerned. But now Adam and Ian have had a mini spat with Chris, but then they made it all up. Is that about it?
That is it. And I've got to be honest, I was doing bits while I was trying to listen to The Archers this week. And at one point I thought, oh, shit, I must have pressed last week's episodes. Because it was just Alice and Brian moaning about the will.
You say that. That's exactly what I did when I was listening, because I listened to it all on what's it called? Listen Again, and I went back and checked the date. I was so convinced I'd made a mistake.
Yeah, I mean, this storyline has gone on 2 weeks too long, and it's only been going 2 weeks, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Why is she so annoyed that she's got 15 grand?
I think you're supposed to say something sensitive like she's grieving, or the very person that she would turn to in a moment of crisis like this isn't there. The irony that it's her mother who's causing this stress, but also isn't the person who can comfort her.
Well, when the suggestions are to divvy up the money, she's against that. Ian's got his dander up about it. He's dropping little snarky bombs, isn't he, in that bloody awful exchange on Thursday where they were all talking over each other. It's like sometimes I edit the podcast and I cut something out and then I haven't cut it out of all of our channels, and suddenly we're all talking over each other and I have to go back and find the mistake. And that's what I thought they'd done on Thursday's episode. I was like, this is terrible to listen to. It's an oral assault. I don't want to hear this. Even in a real situation, I don't think people talk over each other that much.
I mean, actually, our editing of the pod, that's probably one of the few moments where we get to understand some of the craft that goes into making the Archers at a very kind of weak level, where we artificially pull bits of speech apart because it's just unlistenable when we're actually all, getting stuck in at the same time.
It was like an awful delayed phone call on the News at 10 from 1986, wasn't it? Like Kate Adie in Beirut. She had to wait like 5 minutes and then to respond to a question, then she'd end up talking over them.
I'm immediately thinking about Brian O'Hanrahan on the Day Today with
Peter O'Hanrahan.
Peter O'Hanrahan, yeah, where Chris Morris tears him to pieces.
Yeah, Peter, you've lost the news.
I was actually thinking on the way to do this today, like I can't do another week where I just say I don't care about a bit of plot or I don't care about this or that. I did actually found myself a little bit moved or kind of like motivated by some of the other plots, but this one, I couldn't summon anything.
No, but luckily Chris is back and he's got the answer. Bell ringing.
I'd forgotten about that. Yeah, Okay, fair enough. That was quite a good gag. I did, yeah. I mean, it will. It will go down very badly, won't it? Or maybe we're all wrong. Maybe Alice will take to it like a duck to water.
Yes. I'm trying to imagine when Neil rings the bells, doesn't he? He's part of that whole bell ringing crowd. So it's going to be her ex-husband, her ex-father-in-law. It's going to be well jolly. I think Chris has really thought this through. I like the way that even Adam and Ian, Adam doesn't have many moments of clarity, but he was like, bell ringing. Like he just suggested the wildest thing ever.
My stepfather is a campanologist.
Oh, yeah?
And I remember when he first turned up on the scene, I remember my mum saying, "Oh, he's a bell ringer." And these days, I know that I understand the craft that goes into it, and I respect his dedication to it over many, many years in many, many churches and the effort he put in. But I remember when I was 9, I was like, this was a pretty big black mark in his ledger, as far as I was concerned. I was like, this is not too, this is not a cool thing to do. But yeah, I've been turned around. I'm now
A feeling of deja vu that you've told me this before.
I probably have. I mean, let's face it. I mean,
It definitely rings a bell.
hey, oh, did I miss that joke?
Yeah, I was just building it up. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Even in my weekend, that's kind of like, when like Batistuta kind of mishits the ball, but it still chuckles over the line. That's kind of where I'm at this week.
I feel it's more Michael Jordan in The Last Dance when he plays with a fever, and they almost kind of have to carry him onto the court like James Brown,
Mm.
then spring to life to ensure the victory before collapsing again. I don't think there's any insult to Michael Jordan to make that comparison with today's efforts, Matthew. Well done, and thank you.
Thanks. Do you think I can sell my trainers that I wear that we record the podcast in for millions?
Well, I'm looking forward to being on the Netflix, documentary. Bitterly, I'll be the Scottie Pippen bitterly railing against you after you've claimed all the glory.
No tipping Pippin.
Yeah. That's for anyone who doesn't know, that was Scottie's nickname because he was so cheap in Chicago when he was ladding it around. But yeah, what a guy! I was listening to Oliver getting more and more upset about his beautiful bench. And at first, I tried to be sort of empathetic and kind-hearted and sort of think, no, this man has lost his wife, and this is a place of solace and quiet contemplation. And especially as it's he's trying to rebuild the business that meant so much to him and her, and he's put so much trust in these boys, and to find out that these two fine lads who he thought were so wonderful have desecrated his sweet Caroline's memorial. And then it just went on, and he got more and more kind of like sort of patrician and sort of arch, and by the end of it I was like, no, this guy's an absolute twat.
Well, I was waiting for a taxi. I never saw a thing, and I don't know nothing.
Yeah.
He was very much the same. Well, it's just yes and no answers with him, isn't it? So Tracy was like, so have you thought about it? Yes. And have you made up your mind? No. But Brad's a good boy. And it's just, do you remember he was exactly the same way when he caught Tracy at work trying to shag Jazzer in one of the bedrooms? Actually, now I say that sounds pretty bad, having worked in hospitality. That is a bit dodgy. But he treated her the same way, didn't he? It was shortly before he announced that he was giving it all up, or giving up 60% of it. And he was just like, I'm very disappointed in you, Tracy. And she was like, I know I've let you down. Yes, you have. And it's just this delivery. I don't know why he does that. I mean, maybe that's just in his nature, and he's just very old-fashioned.
It is consistent. Because he did do it. He did do it when he felt like he'd let the side down, when he didn't go in and rescue everyone from the fire, and he stood there, and other men were up to the task, but I did nothing. I was impotent. When there was the explosion.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So he has. I mean, he's been through I know a lot of people don't like Oliver. You're not too keen on him, are you, as a character?
No, I like Oliver. I like Oliver a great deal. I just don't like that side of him. I don't like that kind of, as is often the case with the Archers, I don't like bits of the show that reflect parts of the country that I have a problem with. And that kind of unthinking, do your duty, Middle England kind of nonsense does wind me up a bit. So it upsets me more because it's a character I like distorted into doing something that I find quite repellent.
But he's been manipulated, hasn't he? Even at this stage by George.
He doesn't know. Yeah.
I got the impression at the end. Well, I'm gonna skip to the end here, but I got the impression tonight that final conversation between him and George reminded me a bit of when Vince was sizing up Steph with her version of what happened between her and Ben. I feel like he's giving him enough rope, and he can see through George. I think he knows.
You reckon?
I hope so.
Yeah, I like your optimism.
Yeah, I hope so.
My lovely wife and I, our most frequent sort of not arguments, but kind of like light bickers are where she is endlessly optimistic, and I am, what I feel is sensibly pessimistic or realistic.
It's like the opposite of my relationship.
you're the sunny optimistic one. Well, I
Yeah.
do, but I want you to be right. I want my wife to be right. I want you to be right, but I just have a horrible feeling that it's not the case. I think that we're going to be tortured by George, kind of like trying to get his way. But as I said, I do hope you're right.
One thing we have to say, he's really leaning in on it, but this is the easiest fucking case Harrison's ever had, isn't it? And he's milking it. He's got, I mean, for him, I think he thinks this is his prime suspect moment, like bringing down the Yorkshire Ripper or something. He's got two kids who have broken into a disused hotel and have broken a bench and pulled some branches off a tree. And he's like, all right, maybe I'll just go down the room and say what the other guy says then. I was like, what? It's ludicrous. He's absolutely loving it.
There's a police station in underfunded Britain where they can have 2 interview rooms put on hold.
Yeah.
for the case of the broken bench. I mean, it just, yeah. I know we shouldn't look too closely at the Archers or try and hold it to compare it to reality, but it's just absolutely bananas. And I thought it was I thought at least he was going to come back in and go, of course George wasn't there, but I got you to admit it. Would that be entrapment? Is that even a thing?
If he'd lied about George being in the other room?
Exactly, yeah.
Do you think Harrison has the mental dexterity to plan something like that?
But that's why it's so difficult listening to the Archer sometimes, because I was running about 3 thoughts at once when I was listening to it. I'm like, have they made Harrison momentarily competent? Is that plausible? Or is he just dealing with people who are so stupid that he's able to outsmart them? And also, is he clever enough to, be deceitful to get the job done? Anyway, it was all these thoughts were going through my head whilst trying to listen to it.
I mean, fair play to Brad. He pulled an ace card where he said, I saw some shadowy figures in an Aston Villa baseball cap. I thought Harrison at that point would have been like, right, it's Roy. Thanks, Brad. I'll see you later.
Wouldn't it be Prince William or a confused David Cameron?
Yes. Yeah. Can't decide if he's supporting Aston Villa or West Ham, can he?
Exactly. Yeah, the famous David Cameron derby.
Yes. But apparently George went as far as to describe them as trying to escape from the dogs like greased ferrets, which is consistent with the Grundy family, isn't it? I mean, what I would love to see happen, purely from a scandalous approach, is that Oliver discovers the truth. He gives the $5,000 to Brad, and he evicts the Grundys.
Oh wow! But that wouldn't. I mean, it is mad. It is mad enough to happen, isn't it? I mean,
the deceit would have to go on and on and on and on, and the reveal would have to be bigger. But could that happen?
The thing is that Oliver has been very forgiving and very kind to the Grundys. He does appreciate all of the kindnesses that have been shown to him by Clary and Eddie, or as he perceives it. I mean, it's not how I see it, but anyway. And surely the Oliver we have grown to know is able to separate the sins of the son from his perceived kindnesses of the family. It just, but then again, it is the Archers, and so anything's possible. But I want both these plots. I'll tell you what, Matthew, I'll take either of your plots that you've come up with for this over what I fear is going to happen, which is a typical 3-month grind while they stumble clumsily towards a kind of incredibly predictable ending.
Well, every week we gather, and quite often we say, what a ridiculous, painful, terrible week in the Archers that was. And I think we just have to realize at some point that it's not always as terrible as we think. We just have to piece it all together. I've got further evidence to this that I'll raise later, but yeah.
I don't think the Archers is terrible, obviously. I'll tell you what it is, right? Is when you watch a box set as intended, kind of once a week, or kind of a Netflix show as it's released once a week, you kind of you have an opportunity to kind of cleanse the palate and come back renewed and excited. When you binge watch any series, like in 1 or 2 evenings, you start to see the flaws and the cracks and the bits that could have been done better, because you just it's like an overload of information. And I think sometimes that's what it's like with the Archers. Like, we're all listening to 5 episodes a week for years on end, so it's quite natural to sort of end up being a little bit. It's like being a flatmate with someone. It doesn't matter how good they are, you're still going to find things irritating about them, like the way they do the dishwasher, etc.
6 episodes, not 5.
Is it okay? Oh,
yeah. You've mentally blanked one out, Peter.
Yeah. Oh God, those were the good old days.
You've blanked out Sunday. You blanked out Sunday's episode, which was Mia, Jim, and Justin, and the Bridge Farm lot.
Oh yes, Mia, the eco warrior. That was a big setup for the rest of the week, wasn't it? And then we had Jim and Justin going to war, but it was quite pleasant though, wasn't it? Because it ended up with them, having what seemed like an incredibly cordial chat, all things considered, when Justin had to reconcile the fact that what's his name, Martin Gibson, had won the award.
Yeah, because Justin pulled out at the last minute. Apparently, Martin Gibson's got star quality. Justin was complaining last week. I'm not entirely sure. Apart from the fact that he answers his phone by going, Gibson. I don't really think he's got it. Yeah, and he was on Blind Date. Apparently,
I did like that little few weeks when he was a kind of a bigger. He was featuring a bit larger in the show.
That was just in the run up to Christmas, wasn't it? He was taking George under his wing.
Yeah, that might still happen. Oh, sorry. Can you hear my son in the background?
Yes, we got some fickling action.
So, he sounds like me listening to the Archers, wailing. Anyway, yeah. Should I edit that out, Matthew?
No, leave it in.
Yeah, there we are. Anyway, proof he exists. But yeah, so Justin, I thought Justin would sound more like my sweet boy does right now, after being done over by Jim. But actually, he did show that he's a cooler customer than I expected. Dealt with it quite well.
I thought that was an incredible gear shift, that he was so cool about it. Adil was there as well, wasn't he? Yeah. Playing Posh Car Bingo.
Seeing as Kerry's not here, because I think from memory Kerry's not a fan. But what do you think of him? Do you think he's turning out, sort of gradually evolving into a more likable character? I really like him.
Who, Adil?
Yeah.
No, I think Kerry does like him.
Does she?
Yeah, I think so. What? It was interesting that he said he was there to represent the company, because there's been some chat that he is, like, they're going to pull the Adil mask off at the end and Adil's going to be underneath. He obviously is representing or fronting some other organization that has got 60% of the hotel.
Yeah.
No, I mean, what I think is interesting, Oliver is willing to forgive George because he's not forgive, but there's some repentance there because he's fixing the bench, but we all know why he's doing it, because he wants to get his $5,000. But Adil was so positive with George last week at that Bridge Farm Open Day. Your QR code didn't work, but you still did a wonderful job. I mean, I get the impression the way that Adil was with Roy, he's going to be a little bit like that with George. He's going to be, I'm not angry, I'm just disappointed. And I feel that they're slightly rewriting his character a bit, because do you remember when he had Roy tiptoeing around behind him, doing every little thing for him because Roy tried to stand on, he took the moral high ground and said he was going to protest against the new ownership, and then came crawling back about 5 minutes later when he realized he couldn't feed himself.
Mm. Yeah, no, Roy is a weak man. Yeah. It's right. What they're doing with George is absolutely fascinating, isn't it? They're showing us that he's kind of duplicitous in a moral vacuum. You then had that scene where he was sucking up to Susan and very, loving or pretending. I think it's interesting because we really don't know which way's up with George, do we? Like, there are these kind of moments of sort of sincerity. There was the bit where he was caught out by Fallon, and he did sound really quite kind of not pained by embarrassment, but just pained because he felt wrong and he knew that he'd done wrong. So he's a very complex character, and I think that, if they're doing it intentionally, if they are trying to kind of like make us play a guessing game, they're doing it very well. But but I'm a simple pigletty creature. I'd just rather know who he is so I can just listen and not have to think too much.
I think we've got a raging sociopath on our
Really?
hands here. Yeah. Everything is transactional, isn't it? And everything has to be about him being in control.
Yes. Yeah. But is that a character? Because he's from one of the kind of the main families. Is that supportable as a character for in the long run? Like having someone who's truly amoral. Sorry.
No, so I think you have to suggest that he's not going to be around forever.
Right. Okay. So you think he's going to be like a nasty Nick from EastEnders? We're going to get like 3-4 years of him being absolutely foul, and then he's going to be offed by. Do you think this is like the new Will and Ed? Like Brad is going to be his kind of mortal enemy from now on?
Yeah, Brad's going to behead him with a set square.
Brad is Luke Skywalker, and George is Darth Maul.
Those two never met, Peter. I know you hate Star Wars.
I was about to say, I don't know why I'm trying to use Star Wars as a point of comparison. I know almost next to nothing about it. I know there is a character called Darth Maul, and I know there is a character called Luke Skywalker, and I think something like didn't they both fly in the Millennium Dome or something? I can't remember, but
I'm not going to rise to this, Peter.
Are you a big fan? Are you a big Star Wars fan?
No, I really do like Star Wars. I'm willing to admit there's been some absolute clangers, but in terms of enjoying the stuff that's in the canon, yeah, absolutely loving The Mandalorian at the moment. I got a soft spot for it. I think it was the first movie I ever saw. I saw the first one at the cinema in 1977, just to give you an idea.
All right. Okay. Well, you go to sleep in your Jar Jar Binks pajamas tonight, knowing that I support your.
I'm not wearing. No, I don't support that, but I am wearing a Mandalorian T-shirt right now. Actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, blimey. Okay. Well, yeah. No. I believe you. I'll give The Mandalorian a go. Charlotte and I tried to watch it. She didn't like it. As I said a couple of weeks ago, I can now hear Kerry telling us to get the move on.
Well, I did show it to my dad because my dad wanted to watch it, and obviously they've put a lot of stuff for kids in it because of the Baby Yoda character, and we watched a few episodes, and my dad just turned around to me after a few glasses of wine and went, "This is Emmerdale in space."
Well, that was the original pitch for Star Wars, wasn't it? It was a Western in space. That was the idea. Yeah.
So yeah, we went slightly off track there.
Yeah, we got to get back. So George is a sociopath. He's one of the characters from Star Wars that people other than me will know.
Toxic males, Rob.
Very nicely done. So yeah, I was looking at my notes, Matthew, and and here it is, Pat, the most unexpected cliffhanger of the week. Pat outing herself as a reluctant murderer.
Yeah, well, Kerry kind of got there last week, didn't she? When
Did
she
she?
said that. Yeah, when she said there was that scene with Pat firing the gun, we even made a jingle about it, didn't we?
Of course. It's all coming back to me now. Yeah.
And the fact was, Lee has seen the gun. Why did we have the scene with Pat shooting at pigeons or firing to the air because the pigeons were on the brassicas? And
Right.
at the end of the week, we hear Rob is back. We know why, because she's been thinking about blowing Rob's
Of
brains.
course. Yes. And then yes. And it's so yeah. It's all coming back to me now. Yeah, so of course it's not going to be Pat. It's not going to be. It was either you or Kerry was saying Lee is. It's it's more about Lee knowing it's there, and it's yet another reminder. They've given us two little reminders in case we didn't, because no one could be expected to listen to every episode. So everyone knows that Lee knows where Pat's gun is, and it's going to be the lightning struck, thunderstorm, rainy night. Rob will have cut the power, and as lightning sort of frames Rob in a doorway, Lee will take him out with Pat's shotgun.
That's the final scene of Patriot Games, isn't it? When Sean Bean and the real IRA storm Harrison Ford's house.
Yeah, exactly. But instead it's instead of Sean Bean, it's kind of like, I think it's sort of like Hugh Grant would play. I mean, I know he's a fictional character, but kind of like I thought Hugh Grant would play Rob Titchener, I think, very well.
Yeah, I reckon as he gets to the foot of the stairs and starts to ascend, Tom kicks a crate of turnips down, and they hinder his progress by about 30 seconds.
That's about all Tom's good for. He was absolutely useless this week, wasn't he? I mean, he's just. Is there anything he's good at? He can't stand up to Helen. I mean, not that he really needed to, but he was completely weak in the face of her kind of onslaught last week. He then had a miserable little temper tantrum because Pat told him his sister wanted to have some private information that he wasn't instantly privy to. He felt, there was a whole kind of controlling thing going on, and a weirdly kind of patriarchal, like, he needed to be there to kind of protect her thing, which I guess, blah, 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 his brother dying and issues to do with, masculinity. But yeah, anyway, Tom is useless.
Yeah, we have to be clear. The wrong brother died in that family.
So Helen, I mean, just the whole thing, I didn't really know where to sort of land, because it was all kind of getting us ready for Rob. The trip to see Jess was strangely anticlimactic as well, as I think it was for her as well. It was like, oh, you already know. And we were all there like, yeah. Is this it? Is this all? They've wasted half an episode for them going to see Jess, and just for us to find out that Jess knows nothing. And
well,
then
at least Ursula's dead.
Yes, you're right. We did find that out. Although I was thinking earlier on in the week, Rob's parents coming back could have been a bit of fun, but because them being sent as a proxy in Rob's stead could have been like quite fascinating.
I kind of thought it would be good if, like, in a drama on TV, the camera would pan out and you'd have Rob with a finger to his ear with a headset telling Jess what to say. Thought that would be excellent, but unfortunately
or Jess, the sleeper agent.
Yeah, well, a lot of people suspected that it was a hacked email or he was just manipulating her.
Yeah, Helen says "Borsetcha blue," and all of a sudden Jess is like "Borsetcha blue, stab, 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 stab."
Are you sure you haven't been watching The Mandalorian?
The Manchurian Candidate as well.
Well, there's a little bit.
And I've never seen that.
You've never seen The Manchurian Candidate, or you haven't seen The Mandalorian?
No, I haven't seen The Manchurian Candidate, and I feel like it's a must-see film, isn't it?
Yeah, the remake with Denzel Washington was pretty good as well, actually.
Oh,
and
really?
Leap Schreiber.
Okay.
Yeah, very, very good. Meryl Streep, Leap Schreiber, quite thoughtful.
I thought you said Minnie Driver. I was like, I can't really imagine that, but okay, yeah, I'll go with it. But
yeah, so what's she got? She's taking out a non-molestation order. I mean, like, not to be serious for a minute, she's got a prohibited steps order in place already. I've actually got a prohibited steps order, so I kind of know the machinations of that. So H and Lisa aren't allowed within 500 yards of me.
Oh God, I was taking you seriously for a moment there. I should.
Sorry.
Right, okay. Tumbleweed's going in there, definitely.
Oh, come on. Put the tumbleweed in now, then.
Right, no, I'll put in both. Right, so I'm gonna put in 10 minutes of tumbleweeds.
That was a good joke.
It was a good joke. I'm just sulking because I was being so respectful, and I was like, oh wow, this is quite a poignant moment. Matthew talking about this obviously very private moment in his life, and you skewered it with your filthy puns. But yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, the bell ringing and the steps order. Sorry about that. One thing I thought was a bit on the nose was when they were driving back, and Natasha went in on Jess anyway, straight away, didn't she? Where she was like, "Is that it? Is that all you've got to tell us?" I was like, bloody hell, like, give the woman a break. Are you in touch with him? Have you got emails, texts? And on the way back, she's went, I don't think she's had anyone in her life since him. She had the shyness of a kid. You know, those kids that say, can I take my shoes off? Can I have a drink now? And I was like, is she talking about like Tom or Lee in that situation?
My wife walked into my office when I was listening to the episode it might have been this evening, with Pat having a go at Tom. And she was like, oh my God, the way she's talking to him is awful. And then you had the same thing with, the way Natasha was talking about Jess. I was like, who the hell is she to talk about this person she barely knows? I mean, you could argue that she's trying to be clumsily supportive of Helen, but I just thought it was, massively over the top, as you were kind of hinting at.
A lot of people are down on Lee on social media, and I think we might be a little bit guilty of viewing Lee through the prism of Ryan sometimes.
Yeah, because we did make a big show of forgiving Lee. We were so anti him when he first turned up. I think we were very pleased with ourselves that we managed to kind of start to see some positives, and then maybe sort of subconsciously our affection for Ryan kind of rubbed off on Lee a bit. But he is a bit of a tit, isn't he?
Well, he cracked. Who cracked worse under tough questioning? Lee from Pat and Tony or Brad from Harrison? Because Lee completely escalated that situation at Bridge Farm after lunch when he was loading the dishwasher, didn't he? Because they were like, is Helen all right? What? Yeah, no, I don't know. Is there something wrong? Maybe, I don't know. Oh my God. And Tony was like, oh my God, we have to ask her. And he was like, no, don't do that. And then Helen afterwards was saying, well, why don't you just say that my kids are doing really shit at school? Like, that was a get-out clause.
I was on Lee's side on that. Like, you can't send someone off you can ask someone to try and obfuscate or try and change the topic, but you can't ask someone to out and out lie if it's not in their nature.
I know, but for God's sake, you would just go, nah, she's fine, I think. You would just do that, wouldn't you?
Or you'd say, who wants a cup of tea, or walk out the room, or, oh, my phone's gone, or anything. Like, I mean, there's 1,001. You're right. Like, I mean, I'm not saying he's the sharpest chisel in the block. Just that I think they can both be idiots. Helen can be an idiot for attacking him for, quite understandably cracking under pressure. And also Lee can be a complete turnip for not, being a bit sharper, a bit quicker on his feet.
It reminded me a bit of the first season of Blackadder, where they're investigating who'd murdered the woman in the witch trials, and they walk into that village, and Rowan Atkinson said, does anyone know what happened here? And this guy just puts his hand up and goes, no, I don't. Walks off.
Well, that was Brad at the start of his interrogation, wasn't it? That was pretty much his, yeah, till the shadowy figures turned up.
Shadowy figures that he could actually see their baseball caps, but yeah.
So, Matthew, even if the Archers can't provide cliffhangers, we last week we had our exciting new segment. Get your hand off my penis! And I believe you have some penis news. So, should we chuck an advert in, and then you can tell us what's been going on?
Ah, yes.
Ah, yes, you know your judo. Okay, Matthew. What other quotes? What else did he say?
He said, "This is Democracy Manifest."
This is Democracy Manifest. So I don't apologise for going over this again, because it is one of the greatest things that's happened in human history. So we will put the link again in the pod description. One of us will try and tweet it out as well. But yes, it's a succulent Chinese meal is the name of the meme. Matthew, what's the news?
Well, I mean, first of all, Lee said to Pat, that was a sumptuous meal. Can I say that? Is sumptuous a word? And I was really wanting Pat to say succulent, Lee, in an Australian accent. Joe got in touch after last week and said, loved hearing you all back together. My husband wanted to know why I was Googling succulent Chinese meal.
Well, better than get your hands off my penis.
Exactly. Charlie Vivant, who is just followed us on Instagram, followed us on Twitter for a while. She's down in Bristol. She was the one that sent that wonderful Simpsons meme to me. Did you see it? With the guy passing, the one where they're passing the love note in class.
Oh yes.
And she looks behind. And the person is a Chinese meal. Turns around, and Jack Kay or Cecil, whatever, or Charles Doze or whatever name he's using now, if he's not dead, because there was a rumor that he's actually died. He's sat behind her, so yeah, very good. Charlie's well sound. Not her real name, I don't think, but we keep meaning to meet up for pints in Bristol, and family and other stuff gets in the way. And Tetchy Raffles got in touch on Instagram to. They must. This is going to pain you, Peter. They slightly misunderstood your Venom last week.
Okay.
They've written, your description of Folkestone in this week's episode as a smelly, fishy drug den fits quite nicely.
Yeah, they have misunderstood, haven't they?
I didn't finish. Fits quite nicely with the chitty chitty bang bang music.
Fishy drug den, yeah. So I do. I mean, fishy drug den is probably a fair criticism of Folkestone as well, because as we have spoken about, all three of our homes, all three of our seaside homes, do smell of the marijuanas, and I guess obviously the fish as well. But I was talking about Porto, a city I did want to cycle to Porto. That's still on my sort of bucket. I don't have a very long bucket list, but it's still on my bucket list is to cycle from Bilbao to Porto. So, you know, I have nothing against Porto. What I do have something against is my podmates attacking me, unapologetically and relentlessly on air. Because to be honest, I have enough of it off air the rest of the week. So the few minutes we're recording each week is about the only bit of peace I get from the motherfuckers.
Okay. Yeah, so if you want to get in touch on Instagram and set the record straight on Folkestone, it's at the Cider Shed Pod. We got the same Twitter, which is at the Cider Shed Pod on Twitter. Kerry is obviously normally in charge of that. And she's been down under and traveling around, so that's been quiet this week. And I've been way too busy with apartment stuff to do it, but normal service will be resumed next week. We had a new review. This is quite a good link from Jezebel, who said, 5 stars, bloody marvelous, be like the cool kids and join the Patreon. So we have a Patreon, which is patreon.com/the Cider Shed. Come and join us there. We release the episodes early on Saturday, so you get them, and there's no ads in those.
There's nothing particularly original or new to say about that, except for the fact that we are sincerely grateful. As you know, we say it we can't say it enough times. We're very, very grateful, and it does mean a huge amount to us. I
Yeah,
mean, this
100%. Yeah.
the listening figures are sort of abstract, really, because when you do something a bit like this, I don't think you really think of. You think of individuals you're talking to. You don't really think of kind of crowds of people. But obviously, the Patreons do add that kind of that very personal connection.
Yeah, I've got a confession. Like when I'm doing the edit and I'm loading up the pod onto Patreon, I'm kind of always thinking about the people that message us, because we get little messages that ping in as the episode goes out on a Saturday, and they're always like
Yeah,
appreciative. So I'm always kind of thinking, they'll be happy that this drops at this time and stuff.
exactly. That's probably the most kind of immediate feedback we get every week, and it really is appreciated. So Matthew, we need to. You're exhausted. I'm exhausted. You're exhausted from being at the top of a ladder. I'm exhausted from having a toddler. And we need to go and get our beauty sleep and get ready, because next week Warbis is back, and she will expect us to be on our best form.
Well, you say that. I'm entertaining in-laws who are just arriving from Lisbon right now, and tomorrow night I'm going to see Bill Callahan in Braga. So
It's like a different species, you and me. I mean, we are months apart in age, but it's a totally different thing. It's mugs of Horlicks and mending my cardigans at this end, and you're kind of like injecting heroin into your eyeball behind some gig in a converted part of the Porto docks.
I think it's a seated gig in Braga, which is a different city. I don't think it's going to be anything like you're imagining. Yeah. So just before we go, Facebook group called the Cider Shed Podcast, or you can email us at hello@thecidershed.com. Peter, what happened 2 years ago and 2 years and 3 days ago for the very first time?
First pod?
It was the first pod, yeah.
Yeah, mad. 2 years of absolute madness. Well, thanks everyone, as always. And yeah, but okay, so Kerry's probably landed in Dubai now, causing a ruckus in Terminal 3. So yeah, we'll see you all next Friday.
Yeah, take care, everyone. See you. Bye.
Hang on.